Okay, welcome back, guys. We're going to do the last video in the series. Top 15 Dune Imperium cards with Immortality. And I'm not going to spend too much more time on Piter, because I just talked about him in the last video. But I do want to talk a little bit, because I got a comment about people who thought that Piter was not as good as Opulence and Kinds. And I want to say that I don't really agree. I definitely think Piter is better than Opulence. Kinds is more of a difficult call. But the reason is Piter reveals for more than Kinds if you don't have any Fremen cards. Like baseline reveals for more. Has daggers. And for me, really the deciding factor is that he has an agent box and Kinds doesn't. And the agent box is really, really good. Intrigue cards are very valuable in this game. You can get two points off of an intrigue card. You can have plans within plans, corner of the market, grand conspiracy, all give 2 points. And then you also have combat cards that can give 2 points as well in the final combats. So I value intrigue cards very, very highly. And we're actually going to see there's only, I think, 2 or 3 cards that provide intrigues on agent action, which shows how highly the developers value that. There's another card that provides intrigues on agent action that's ranked higher than this one, but we'll get there when we get there. Now, that being said, Kinds does have a higher ceiling than Piter, but Piter doesn't ask you to fill your deck with bad, crappy Fremen cards to get what he wants. So that's why I like him better. But it is like I think you could make the argument that they're better than Piter, but that's why I like him more. Anyway, going to Full Scale Assault at number 14. So, this is a really interesting card because it showcases the limits of my listing system. So, I think on the list that Hidden Assets did, Full Scale Assault was like in the 30s or something. And that just shows that I'm really making this list based on what is the best card to have, not on how much it costs. Like if you're revealing for 8 and you see In the Shadows in the row and you see Full Scale Assault, it's true that In the Shadows is much, much more cost efficient than a Full Scale Assault. But Full Scale Assault's the better card. And if I have the choice between a Full Scale Assault and an In the Shadows, I'm taking the Full Scale Assault. Which actually talk about the card a little bit here. It's not as good as the other 8-cost card, or cards, because there's 2 of them actually, but it is a very, very, very good card. So first off, free Dreadnought on buy is really good, and it opens up a lot of possibilities for a lot of leaders, because Dreadnoughts are a pain in the butt to get. The Dreadnought action space doesn't let you deploy troops. It costs 3 Solari, which you need for your Swordmaster and probably also your High Council. And on top of that, if you want to get the full value of it, you also have to have a ton of spice as well to buy a technology. And the space doesn't give you any discount to buying a technology, so you better have the spice that you need. So any way to cheat Dreadnoughts into play is really good. And you can buy this card and do that. This allows... Like, I've had games with this card where I just pivoted into combat and won the game off of it. I have a really good Memnon game on my channel with that. And actually, in that game, I ended up buying Piter de Vries and then using Piter to afford full-scale assault and roll the game that way. It's a great card with Ilbon. It's a great card with Leto. It's good with Helena. So really, really useful card. Good with detonation devices, obviously. It goes to faction, right? Going to Emperor and getting like 4 troops is kind of crazy. It goes to city though, so unlike Sauerkraut Legion, this is like the super Sauerkraut Legion, right? In that this gives you the troops, but you can deploy them at a city as well. Very good when grafted. Is in addition to that, it has persuasion, so you're never sad to reveal it. Even if you don't get the bottom effect. It pays you off for having more Dreadnoughts, so you can go and get the second Dreadnought and have this reveal for 6. And then you have a Worm Riders that also has Persuasion on it, which is kind of crazy. But if you don't get any daggers out of this, which you pretty much always are going to get 2 Persuasion and 3 daggers, that's Stilgar, which is a super, super good card. I think we've talked about Stilgar already, haven't we? Yeah. So like at the baseline, this is a Stilgar, which is a very very good card. Um, top 20 card that also gives you something really valuable when you buy it. Sometimes your Dreadnought might be on a city space, or you might have blown it up to detonation devices, but usually, because the full scale assault provides a Dreadnought, it's going to reveal for 3 daggers and also 2 persuasion. So, but even in the situations where you don't get the daggers, you're still revealing for 2 persuasion. It's not bad. If you don't get the daggers, you're probably going to be playing the card and getting your troops for it. But really, really powerful card. It's not. Let's just say this: it is it's more than 10 spots below the other 8 cost card, but it's still extremely powerful and a good Helena target for sure. Okay, 13, Tleilaxu Surgeon. Card is crazy because this is a 3 cost card, a 3 cost card up here with an 8 cost card, and a 5 and a 6. So that's kind of crazy. I think this was a sleeper card of Immortality. Like, this card snuck in. Everyone was talking about, Tleilaxu Master and Gola, and they missed this thing. Because this is so good. Let's just talk about it, right? So, it goes to Emperor, right? This thing goes to faction, by the way. And cities, of course. It lets you... So it has a loop on it. So the bottom half is 2 persuasion, which is fantastic, especially for a 3-cost card. It allows you to lose 2 troops, which is painful, to get 2 specimens. So ignoring the top half, let's say you never synergize this with the top half, this is going to jumpstart your deck building for the Tleilaxu row. It lets you get Tleilaxu row cards way sooner than you could otherwise. It lets you get reclaimed forces and whatnot. But also, that's not what you use them for, because when you play the Surgeon, you get 2 Scarabs. 2 Scarabs is about a point to half a point. There's 2 points on the track. You don't need that many to get your points, and the halfway points give you intrigue cards. So you're getting an intrigue card from this usually, if not a point. The first point also gives you spice on that track. It's very hard to get to both points out of the Scarab track, but this card pretty much guarantees it. And that's just so crazy because it frees you up from having to spend resources on that. It's a very, very good card. I would bomb the row if I saw this a lot of the time, just because it's so cheap and how effective it is. And yeah, all you do is you reveal it and then you play it. It's that loop that I'm talking about that many of the cards in Dune Imperium have. Very, very strong card. I don't think it deserves to be in the top 10 because in terms of pure effect, there are cards that are better than this. But I think this is up there with Web of Power and In the Shadows, CHOAM Delegate, as the most cost-efficient card in the game. This is insanely good for 3 persuasion. And if you haven't tried this out, give it a go. Okay, 12, Thufir Hawat. Sometimes I say that Thufir Hawat's my favorite card. He's not. There's 2 cards that I like better. But I love Thufir. Thufir is so good. I keep talking about how strong intrigue cards are, and the fact that he reveals for an intrigue card is incredible. We talked about that with Embedded Agent. And you do that not that infrequently. When Hidden Assets talked about him, they said that they play him every round. And I play him most of the time too. But the reason I play him is not because his reveal isn't that good. It's because the flexibility that Thufir offers is just incredible. He cannot go to Landstrad for some reason. If there's a book-based reason for it, I don't remember what that was. But he's basically a fold space that never leaves your deck. You can always continue playing him. And unlike a fold space, when you reveal it, pretty much you feel bad and everything sucks. He provides persuasion and intrigue cards. Oh my god. This guy gives you consistent faction access. He pretty much solves faction access for your deck if you can keep it below like 13 or 14 cards. In addition to letting you go to city and desert spaces, which is, I've used him for that quite frequently. Yeah, he's a simple card. And then he draws a card on all of those actions. It's just the hyper consistent booster. A lot of the time, you're going to play a game where you have a Thufir Hawat and you have, a Guild Accord or an Opulence or something. At the end of the game, you might say, "Wow, yeah, that Opulence won me the game," or that Guild Accord won me the game. But it didn't. It was Thufir that did it, because Thufir is the one that got you drawing those cards over and over again. He gave you the access to selective breeding. He gave you the access to that Hardy Warriors. He's like a drummer in a band in that he's helping you in all these little not super noticeable way by just supporting everything else your deck is doing and making it better. Yeah, he's just an incredible support card. Nothing more to say. I love Thufir. I think of all the 5-cost cards, he is my favorite, besides one other one that we haven't gotten to yet. There's another 5-coster I like more than Thufir. I haven't seen it. I had a game not that long ago, I think on Paul. I could be mistaken which leader, but I think it was Paul. And I was tasked early with, I revealed for 5, and Piter and Thufir were both in the row. And I couldn't make up my mind because I love them both so much. And I went with Thufir, and I won. And I feel like that was sort of the deciding factor for me, putting Thufir ahead of Piter. They're both incredible. Okay. Number 11, Boundless Ambition. This card I could have overrated this. It might not be a number 11 card, but I love that this card leans into whatever strategy your leader does. A second copy of your Signet Ring is something so unique that you really can't find it anywhere else. You can get this with Leto and steal every alliance. You can get this with the Baron and have 1 billion intrigue cards. You can get this with Ariana and have more water than anyone can handle. It's so cool. And it's a repeatable diplomacy in your deck. You can go to faction spaces over and over again and then get some benefit for it. It's really, really cool. Super neat card. And then the reveal, the unloadability is not bad. It's actually really cool. It's 5 persuasion, but it only is 5 persuasion towards a 5-cost card or lower. So you just acquire something. So this grabs you a Kynes, right? This grabs you a Piter or a Thufir or a Whip of Power on reveal. And I think that's so cool that this card just jumpstarts your deck building in a way that other high persuasion cards don't. Now, the funny thing about this card is that it's an unloadability, right? So if you unload this and you don't want to acquire a card, well, too bad. It's not optional, buddy. And I think that's so cool. This idea that ambition and greed, they help you, but you can't turn them off. At some point, these vices control you and maybe make you do things you don't want to do. So I love that it will force you sometimes to get a card even if you don't want to, even though I know that's not a good feature of the card. The fact that this card can get so many other cards this high on the list, I think is a big factor in its placement. And also the fact that it visits every single faction, with a powerful effect is really cool. And this isn't that good on Tessia, right? This is useless on Yarkoon or whatever. We haven't gotten to him yet, but he doesn't exist yet, at least not for me. It's just such a cool card. I think maybe I put it a little too high. I probably ought to move it a few steps back, but I think either way, it's sitting right outside the top 10. This is on par with Piter for me, so I wouldn't move it that far back. The ability to consistently visit faction is really, really important in this game. And it can take it, like I said, it can take any strategy you're doing and just make you do it a little bit more, just a little bit better. So, on to the top 10. Okay, so at number 10, we have For Humanity. And this is starting a theme I think you're going to see here. At least 40% of the cards on the top 10 are Bene Gesserit cards, and maybe more. The Bene Gesserit has sort of a monopoly on high-end whoppers. They tend to do that. The funny thing with this card is, it doesn't look that impressive. Partially because the access is nothing special, right? Like Landstrat and Desert and Bene Gesserit, okay, sure, whatever. It's fine. It's 3 icons in faction, but it's not that flexible. It can't go to cities. It can't go to three of the factions. So like you're not that impressed with the access. And then you look at the reveal effect, and you're like, if you have the Bene Gesserit alliance go down 2 faction bumps to get a point, why would you do that? Like, okay, I have the alliance, but now I'm losing the alliance to get a point. That's just breaking even, right? Um, this card is a lot more powerful than it looks. So let's talk about it. So first off, both halves are incredible, right? The play effect is a faction bump anywhere. That's really, really good. Yeah, it's really, really good. That is powerful. I mean, that effect is powerful enough to put Web of Power in, number 19 here, right? Like, we're in the top 20 just based on that. And this card does it on play, right? This is a power play to Bene Gesserit, right? You take this to Bene Gesserit, you move up 2 spots immediately, right? If you want to. If you go to Selective Breeding, you trash it in the shadows, guess what? You move up 3 spots on Bene Gesserit. Kind of insane. Lets you steal alliances that people didn't think you could steal. Not even Bene Gesserit, but if you're tied with somebody on a faction and that faction is blocked and they think you can't get there, you can force humanity to steal it. And then, the actual effect does synergize with the bottom half. So you use this card to power play to Bene Gesserit repeatedly, max out that alliance. Bene Gesserit's not a sought after faction track in general. People generally visit it last, maybe second to last, depending on how the Emperor shakes out. So if people see you at like 3 or 4 or 5 persuasion on Bene Gesserit, they're going to leave it alone. They're not even going to chase you on it. Like, if you have this card, they can't steal that alliance from you. So you might be the only person even remotely in contention for that alliance. You stick to the top of the track, and then you just drop 2 bumps. You lose nothing and get points repeatedly. It's insanely powerful, and these bumps don't have to be the Bene Gesserit either. If you have spy satellites with this thing, you can drop your 1 influence factions, get points that way. It's just incredibly powerful, being able to repeatedly reveal for a point and also provide 2 persuasion. So, you could potentially also get a Spice Must Flow. This is like a 2-point reveal a lot of the time. It really is. Incredibly powerful agent box, incredibly powerful reveal. This thing, it doesn't look like much, but it definitely is worth 7 persuasion. I can tell you that much. So I put it in my top 10 for humanity. There you go. Probably not a card you've seen a whole lot of if you play digital, but watch out for this thing. Okay. Number 9 is Imperium Ceremony. This card is kind of like Piter de Vries on steroids for only 1 persuasion more. It is a repeatable Hundra Moritani, is how I think about it. This is the last card, by the way, in that cycle of combining every 2 faction tags. So this is the Spacing Guild and Emperor. Yes. This is the Spacing Guild and Emperor, and this is the strongest of the cycle. So just like Piter, it reveals for 3. And just like Piter, it gives you an entry card. And again, Piter is already top 15 card for me. But this thing is so crazy because it lets you go to 2 different factions. Like what? Like, the only thing that you could knock Piter for was that he didn't go to faction. And this thing goes to 2 of them. Just, wow. Yeah. And on top of all that, it can also go to green. You can play this to Mentat, get this insane agent box, and just keep cycling your agent effects. If those are maxed out or whatever. And that kind of undersells it, because let's talk about how powerful this agent box is. This agent box is a leader's entire ability. Like, yeah, like this is Hunter's entire ability, and you can just do it over and over again. So choosing the best intrigue card of the top 2 cards in the deck is really good. This lets you dig for the perfect intrigue card for you, and you also and get knowledge of what the next one is. So the next guy who goes to Carthag or goes to Secrets, you know what he's got. You've got information on him, and you can play around that. And if the card's bad, if the other card you didn't pick is bad, the next time you take Imperium Ceremony to a spot, you can just look at two again and pick the other one. This lets you have foreknowledge of what's on top of the deck, in addition to selecting a better intrigue card. I've talked about how powerful intrigue cards are, and there's really not a better intrigue card effect than this. Hundro frequently uses this card early in the game to get crazy advantages. Win combats he shouldn't be able to win. Go interstellar shipping round 1 if he gets the right cards. Get Swordmaster. Excuse me. Get Swordmaster round 1 even is possible for Hundro. This card is just really, really good. I think 9 is appropriate for it. It's close with 4 humanity, but I think it's providing a more variable set of value. And it also goes to different factions. So, very tough one, but I put that one at number 9. Okay. Number 8 is Gurney Halleck. And for a long time, before I started playing Dune Imperium Digital, I didn't think that much about Gurney. I didn't think of him as a top 10 card. And then I started picking him in Digital, and oh my god, this card is crazy. He might not be better than Imperium Ceremony, but that's not immediately clear to me. So, okay, he's fantastic with Helena, and he's fantastic with Elysia. Let's get that out of the way. I put her here because she can put Gurney aside. There's 4 different city spots, so you're never gonna... Almost never will you not be able to play him, and then you can get Spice for him. And his Agent Box is incredible. Draw a card, 2 troops. Okay, so you're telling me I can take this to Research Station, put in 2 troops from Gurney, 2 troops from my garrison, draw 4 cards. You're telling me I can take this to Arakeen, put in 5 troops, and draw 2 cards? Like, oh my, holy crap. The 2 troops is really what puts this over the edge. And I think it's also a statement to how good the Beast Signet Ring is, but the card draw can really not be underestimated. This card can consistently draw you 2 cards. That's a Lady Jessica Agent Box. Yeah. Like, wow. And unlike Smuggler's Stopper that can draw you 2 cards, this thing doesn't require you to have guild access or anything like that. Like, this just dominates games, dominates combats, will just rake in points. People don't know how to deal with it either. Like, you're at 0 troops in the combat, and all of a sudden you're at 5. Like, he just takes over games. And even more, you have that reveal effect. Now, that being said, I've only used the reveal effect a few times. I don't think it's the better version of the effect. Like, and if you compare these two, you can see that, like, clearly agent boxes are more powerful on average than reveal effects. But the ability to just put in 2 troops when people didn't think you could is quite good. And in the late game, Solari is not very valuable. So you can use this to just push more muscle into a combat that you normally couldn't. And a two persuasion card normally can't do that. This is basically saying, hey, 3 Solari for 4. You can convert 3 Solari into 4 daggers in addition to your 2 persuasion, right? That's a super Gunthopter. And it's even better than that, because 4 daggers wouldn't do anything if you weren't in the combat, but Gurney can put you in the combat when you're not in it. Yeah, this card's incredible. There's just nothing to say. Every facet of this card is above average, except that it can only go to cities. But I think if you gave this card more access, you would be wanting to take Gurney to cities most of the time anyway. That's not an excuse, but this is about as strong as a card with only one access type can be. There's only one card I can think of on this list that's higher with only 1 faction access, and if you can guess what it is, then you deserve a cookie because, yeah. Well, let's just see what it is when we get there. Crazy, crazy card. If this card's in the row, pick Helena. Pick. Helena is incredible with this because she can infiltrate it every single time. But Alazi is really good with it too. It's fantastic. Okay. 7, CHOAM Directorship. A lot of people would put this in the top 5. I would not. This is weird because this card I am like famously sour on, but even given that fact, even given how sour I am on this card, it's still number 7. Yeah, like this card is incredible. It's 2 points and maybe more than that because maybe you're getting alliances, and maybe it's more than that because you're also getting the bonuses from faction tracks, right? And denying enemies alliances. I did have a conversation with I'm going to call him a fan, but probably that's overstating things, who thought that you should buy this like early reveal for this, like round 2 or 3, and that's just not true. The cards ahead of this, that might be something where you could early reveal playing no agents. Unless it literally wins you the game or like steals an alliance, I would not do that. The pattern that I've observed with this card is that people buy it too early. This card, the later you get it, the better. That's kind of unusual for these really, really powerful cards. But the later you get it, the better. Usually the earlier you get, the better, right? If you get Gurney on round 1, you can just roll the game with combats with him. CHOAM Directorship, you don't want round 1. If you get CHOAM Directorship round 1, you better have it better be getting you to interstellar shipping. You know what I mean? Like, because this card is poison in your deck. It has no persuasion. It has no access. That's really bad. Yes, it reveals for 3 Solari, and yes, that's good. But come the mid game, 3 Solari doesn't mean much of anything. And you're going to be really weighed down by this. The premise of this card is put a wound in your deck, to use a Slay the Spire terminology. Put a wound in your deck, but get like 2 or 3 points. Fantastic. In round 6, this will win you the game if it flips and you have the ability to get it. But I've also seen a lot of games where this was worse than a Spice Must Flow because the alliances had all already kind of been decided. So I think this card's overrated. That being said, even at overrated, it is such an iconic card that, CHOAM Directorship is just really, really good at dominating factions. I don't like keeping it in my deck. I want to trash it unless I already have my unless I can't get my Swordmaster, but it deserves a spot in the top 10. Not top 5, if you ask me, but still very, very, very good. Okay. 6, Shai-Hulud. This is a card. This is the last card, the card I was referring to with Gurney, that has only 1 access. I will freely admit that I overrate this card. But it's so good. And it's so fun. It's so fun. Let's just talk about it. So, just like these other powerful cards, right? Shai-Hulud gives you something on purchase. Now, with Unload, that's very good, right? Buying Shai-Hulud can sometimes steal the Bene Gesserit Alliance by trashing your In the Shadows, right? It can sometimes give you a ton of spice and Solari from trashing Esmar Tuek. But that's not usually what's going to happen. Usually what's going to happen is you're going to buy Shai-Hulud, you're going to get rid of those awful, awful daggers and those awful, convincing arguments, and start trimming your deck down to something awesome. And then you're going to start playing this thing. And you look at the conversion, you're like, okay, you have to trash a card to get true troops. Like, wait, what? That's I don't find that to be a bad thing at all. I don't mind trashing a card. That's not a cost. That's a benefit. Like, trash a card, gain 2 troops. Holy crap. Now, in the late game, you're better off with Gurney because you've trashed your deck down. But if you can get this early, you can just snowball the game. will turn you into Armand de Kaz plus whatever your other leader is. Um, this is a this is a card that wins combats, and it's so much fun to feed your cards to Shai-Hulud. Just sacrifice them on that altar, and then get the power of these huge combat wins. It's the biggest Fremen Bond payoff in the game, besides Liet Kynes. And sometimes Shai-Hulud is better than Liet Kynes, right? 5 daggers, I think, is the most daggers on a single card, other than like things more situational, like Worm Riders can get you to 6 if you have an alliance, but this can't be taken away from you. And the fact that it's Fremen Bond doesn't matter because you can trash down to that Fremen Bond, right? You can trash out those non-Fremen cards in your deck and just make this card sing. Admittedly, I've overrated it a little bit, but I do really believe it belongs in the top 10. The earlier you get this card, the more you can snowball the game, and you're gonna notice it. You're gonna notice because you're gonna be drawing into your still suit manufacturers and your shoot Liet Kynes and your Stitch Horrors, and not into the daggers and reconnaissances that everyone else is drawing into. And eventually, this card puts a clock on the game almost, because you get this, you're gonna be in contention for every single combat pretty much, and your deck's gonna be getting better and better and better. Eventually, you're trashing down to where you're drawing your For Humanity or your Guild Ambassador or whatever, and just getting points, and people don't know how to stop it. So, Shai-Hulud, I think this is my favorite card. There's one card that I like better, that we'll see coming up soon in the top 5, just in terms of preferences, but it's also very powerful. Shai-Hulud. Okay, and this is my favorite card. Number 5 is Replacement Eyes. So I love trashing, and I love deck building, and I thought, hey, trashing a card to get 2 troops, that doesn't seem like a very bad cost for 2 troops. What if instead of getting combat strength, you got to draw cards? Like, oh my gosh. Talk about deck building, Batman. This card grafts. It sets up your graft synergies. All of those cards that I said are great when grafted, Replacement Eyes will do it for you. All those cards that I said, well, these give you troops if only you could graft into a combat space, Replacement Eyes is there for you. Get this early. It only costs 5. This is my favorite card. This is my favorite card and my favorite 5-cost card. Get this early. It only costs 5, and then just get your deck rolling. Get your deck singing. And not only does it trash cards, it trashes to draw, which really takes away the tempo disadvantage of card trash, and it gets you closer to Replacement Eyes again. So you graft Replacement Eyes to something. It takes away the tempo disadvantage of graft by drawing you a card. You trash a card to set up your graft combos, and then you're going to see Replacement Eyes again, maybe in a round, because you're thinning your deck. And then once you've thinned your deck down to where you've got like your 9-card Haymaker deck, your crazy Bene Gesserit deck, then you say, okay, bye-bye Replacement Eyes, I'll trash you and get a Scarab, and then get like a point. So this card is so good. I'm really hoping for Immortality to come out in digital soon so I can play more of this card. It's just such a wonderful, wonderful little thing. And then also, the fact that this can go to Research Station, just, oh my gosh. You can get a research bump from Research Station, a Scarab from this card, draw cards, trash cards. Like, you can go up 2 Scarabs and then 1 action and steal the 2 spice that no one thought you could get. It's just, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of players are going to come in and tell me that I'm overrating this card at number 5. Maybe. Could be. Even still, the thing is incredible. In round 6, I'm probably not that interested in Replacement Eyes. I'm still considering it because of the trash effect, right? As long as there's a possibility that it can get me a point from that. Because, hey, I mean, people say, well, why don't you have Opulence higher than Replacement Eyes? Well, if you draw Opulence, if you buy Opulence in round 6 and you draw it in round 7, like let's say you get lucky and you draw it, which is not even guaranteed, but let's say you do. Okay, then you have to spend a ton of money to get a point, which you might not have. Or you could just trash Replacement Eyes and get a point. Like, like that sounds pretty good to me. And replacement eyes can trash itself, so it's not hard to do. Yeah, just fantastic card. Okay. Top five. Number four, Lady Jessica. And I was really confident when I started making this list that Lady Jessica would be at number two. I think Hidden Assets put her at number one. And she is really good. Really, really good. But there are some cards from Immortality, two cards in particular, that are better than her, if you can believe it. But yeah, so one, two. I think the remaining cards are all been in Gesserit. No, 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 no. Just two more. Anyway, let's talk about her, Lady Jessica. Everything about her is so sweet. A faction bump on buy is crazy. Like, most of these cards, if you buy them in round 8, will not do anything for you. Besides Directorship. Lady Jessica oftentimes gives you, especially in the late game, what Directorship would have given you. Right? Usually in round 6, there's only one faction you really need to go up with. But Directorship will get the job done. So will Lady Jessica. But unlike Directorship, Lady Jessica is insanely powerful early. She gets you that guild bump, right? She can steal alliances. And draw 2 on agent action to any planet space. Man, BG Initiate is getting smoked by Jessica right now. And she can go to Bene Gesserit faction. So you're telling me that I can take this card to selective breeding and draw 4 cards? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And what do you think happens when you draw 4 cards? Well, you cycle your deck, and you're gonna see Lady Jessica again next round. Yeah, she enables herself because she draws so much that you see her more often. And unlike like Smuggler's Thopter, you can take her to cards to spaces that can draw, right? You can take this to Arakeen. You can take this to selective breeding. And once you get Lady Jessica, selective breeding is one of the most powerful things you can do because just playing her over and over again, this two card draw often that's Spice Must Flow, right? That's drawing into your Worm Riders or your Shai-Hulud and winning the combat. And the reveal is incredible. When I talked about Piter, I said one of the things, there's only 3 cards in this game that reveal for 3 persuasion. And Piter's one of them. And he's at number 15, right? So, of course, Lady Jessica couldn't be content just to be a Giga Ultra Bene Gesserit Initiate. She also had to have 3 times as much persuasion and a dagger on reveal. This card is loaded, dude. If you see this, you should probably just pick Helena. This is one of the cards. Replacement Eyes doesn't quite fit into that category, but Shai-Hulud does. Like 6 and above, these are cards where if I see them in the row, especially at the start of the game, I'll beg, borrow, and steal. I'll do whatever I have to do to get them before anyone else. I'll early reveal. I'll research station when it wasn't very good for me. I'll go to selective breeding. I'll do whatever I can to lock these things down. Now, in Immortality, you can Atomics token them away, and that makes it more risky to do that sort of stuff. But, yeah. I mean, there's nothing to say about it. Like, if you said Lady Jessica was number 1, I would tell you probably that's an overrate. But I accept it. She's so good. Both halves of her, by the way, pretty much give you a Spice Must Flow. Like, the bottom half, 3 persuasion from 1 card is usually a Spice Must Flow. And the top half draws you into more cards. So, yeah, she's just Prince points. Okay. Number 3 is Long Reach. And I think this one, I caught myself off guard when I ranked it. But I really do think this is the 3rd best card in the game. This is the ultimate Bene Gesserit deck payoff. Choose 2 faction bumps every single time you play this. Now you might say, this card doesn't have any faction access. So, Yeah, I guess you have to play a Bene Gesserit card first, and then you play this card and get that cool effect. That's true. That's why the Bene Gesserit deck is so powerful. But their Immortality introduced this other funny thing called Graft. Um, and if you graft this, you get the effect anyway. So this card steals alliances. God forbid you graft this to a faction space, right? And get two bumps with one faction and another bump with another faction. Just holy moly. And if you and yeah, okay, this card's hard to use, sure, but the reveal. Have I mentioned how good intrigue cards are? Because oh my god, this reveal. I mean, it's not as good as Jessica's, don't get me wrong, but an intrigue card is pretty fine, pretty dang fine. Um, and a persuasion on top of that. Yeah, I mean, if you can get a deck, a Bene Gesserit deck that's curated to where you're drawing this every turn, you can't lose. I don't think you can. I don't think you can lose. It might happen if like somebody takes a huge combat lead and just tries to race the game out, but good luck. You're gonna have all the alliances. So um, this card is way better than CHOAM Directorship, by the way. The only time I pick CHOAM Directorship over this, despite the fact that Directorship costs two more, is if I'm in the late game and looking for a Hail Mary. Like, okay, yeah, like Directorship gives you an immediate bump, but I've seen so many games where people get that card early. It's poison in their deck. It slows them down, and then they suffer. This is just freaking gasoline, dude. Like, um, yeah, Long Reach is another incredible card from Immortality. Okay, this is our last Immortality card of the list at number 2, and it's Occupation. And I had to think long and hard about this one before putting it ahead of Jessica and before putting it ahead of Long Reach. But I do think it's warranted. Snake Coster, but it gives you 3 whole troops. That's a full starting garrison on buy. Okay? And it's not done there because you're going to deploy those troops because every time you play this card, and it goes everywhere except for Landstrad for some reason. So it's another Thufir Hawat. This is Thufir Hawat on steroids, by the way. It goes anywhere and draws you a card. And if that wasn't enough, because apparently Thufir wasn't enough, it lets you deploy troops. I mean, think about that. You get 3 troops when you buy it. You show up randomly at like, fold space or like secrets, and then you're throwing troops in. What? Hello? This card can go to Emperor. You can get the Emperor Alliance, or you can go to Conspire with this thing and throw in a ton of troops. This card basically turns Conspire into another Highliner for you. Yeah, I mean it's just wow. The card's incredible. It draw again, just like these top cards. Notice how many of them draw cards. It draws itself back into itself, and if that wasn't enough, it fuels itself because the bottom half of this card gives you a water every single time to go to Highliner with if you want it, or Hardy Warriors. It gives you spice to go to that selective breeding with, or to go to that Conspire with, and then it gives you a troop on reveal. That you're just going to turn around and use with the agent action. This card snowballs combats like no other. I think this card is like a giga beefed up love child between Thufir Hawat and Full Scale Assault. Just incredible card. Very interesting top end of the Spacing Guild. Okay, guys, so what's number 1? We've gone through like 104 cards now? 103? I think everyone knows what it is, right? Like, you guys know. You guys know what number 1 is. What is it? It's the Quiznos Hat Rack. Yep. You go to Quiznos and you don't know where to put your bowler hat. It's this card. I don't think it's possible without putting an on-buy effect to make this card any better. I guess that's not true. You could put like a reveal on it, but that would do nothing. Like putting a reveal on this card would do nothing. This card is incredibly unique. There's nothing else like this. This card, I think when you buy it, wins you the game 85% of the time. If you buy it in the first 3 rounds, it wins you the game 100% of the time. If you buy it in like the mid game and the late game, it might win you the game like 40 or 50% of the time. But oh my god. Okay, so this gives you a 4th or a 5th action. This is a whole sword master. This card's a whole sword master. And it's even better than that. You thought CHOAM Delegate was good because it could go to interstellar shipping and infiltrate it. What if you could do that and also draw a card and also not spend an agent? You just don't have to spend an agent for this card. And then what if that card also could go to every other type of space? Like what if it could go to Fremen? Like what if it could go to guilds? What it, this can infiltrate Highliner. This can infiltrate selective breeding. This can do literally whatever you could possibly want it to do in that situation. This can do anything. This is probably the only card that I will reveal for first action with spinning no agents. That's maybe not true. I'd probably also do it for Jessica. I'd probably also do it for Occupation, Long Reach if I have the right stuff going on. Because this card is going to pay you back an extra action every single time. If you can set your game up correctly, you'll draw this card every single round and just go to town with it. And there's some strategy even because you're sending your own agent from somewhere else, right? So maybe you go to Secrets, and then you take Kwisatz and you send the Kwisatz agent to Interstellar. Now Secrets is open, and then you're on your next action. You send an agent to Secrets and went to Secrets twice in one round, and nobody thought you could get away with it. No one's intrigue cards are safe with this card in the game because if you have 4 intrigue cards, Kwisatz will infiltrate it. And you never have to be afraid of drawing cards at the end of your round with this card in your deck, because if you draw the Kwisatz, right, like if you go to Research Station and you draw the Kwisatz, unlike every other card in the game, you can have 0 agents and still use this and still get full value out of it. And the fact that it doesn't reveal for any persuasion does not matter, because you can always play it and draw a card, and it will always replace itself with something else. And because, again, it draws a card, so the more you play Kwisatz, the more you draw into Kwisatz. Like, that is such the beautiful thing about it. And it's been a Gessrit, so this turns on Long Reach, right? Like, how crazy is that? Kwisatz somewhere, oh, now I can play my Long Reach. Okay, sure. I infiltrated a faction, let's go ahead and play Long Reach and get another bump with that faction plus another one. Like, holy crap. This card makes Helena insane in digital where there's no atomics tokens, because yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a beautiful design, a perfect design. I would not change it. I would not nerf it. I would not buff it. It's I think before round 6, maybe 7, this card is better than Spice Must Flow. If you're revealing for 9, you are making a mistake by buying a Spice Must Flow for a point instead of this. That's my opinion. Round 1, obviously. 2, obviously. If you're in round 4 and you have 9 persuasion and you buy Spice Must Flow instead of this, you better have a plan to win the game early. Even in round 6, drawing that Kwisatz could give you that point that the Spice Must Flow would have given you, right? Whereas drawing the Spice Must Flow was a brick. So this is the best card in the game. It's beautiful. I love it. No complaints. And that's our list. That's number one. That's every card in Dune Imperium Immortality. I'm looking forward to when Bloodlines comes out. I want to try lots of new cards. I want to see what I can add to the list here. Um, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys agree at least a little bit with my top 10. Sorry, top 15.